on the Six Screens Telenetwork, the go-to site for your infinite source of precise, reliable, and factual material exposing the Watchtower organization.
Well, hello, everyone. It's so good to see all of our good friends coming into the Six Screens tonight. And boy, what a night it is across the country. As we all know, we have got a major storm. I mean, that's what the news people are telling us. And it's going to end up here in New England. It started out in Texas, and it's not snowing up here tonight. In fact, it's just cold. It's about probably 7, 8 degrees. But we do have a snowstorm coming tomorrow and Monday. We're talking about maybe getting upwards of 20, 24 inches of snow. But it's not unusual. We get that up here in New England. But some parts of the country really are getting hit hard with ice, and that's even more of a problem. So we wish you all the best. Hunker down, stay safe, and we're glad you could come in and listen to the Six Screens tonight. Friends, I'll tell you what, we find when the weather's bad, very inclement, when it gets cold in the winter, we get more and more people coming into the Six Screens, and we really appreciate you wanting to take and spend some time with us tonight. And by all means, if you haven't heard the Six Screens of the Watchtower programs before, what we do here is expose the Jehovah's Witness religion, cult, if you would, on how heinous and destructive and evil they are. And we have people call in and voice their concerns about their trek in the Watchtower organization. Well, anyways, my name's Rick Ferrin. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And like I say, we've been doing it for 20 years now, and we have got quite the programs here on the Six Screens. And as a matter of fact, I have to tell you, this is where ex-Jehovah's Witnesses come to talk, right here. And they've been doing it for many years. And we do it every Saturday night and every other Sunday, including tomorrow. We have a Six Screens Sunday program beginning tomorrow, 1 o'clock. So if you can, make it in tomorrow and join us on our Sunday program. Well, let's see what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. There's always something going on, right? It hasn't always been this way. I have to tell you that, years ago, it was quite monotonous and somewhat mundane to report the news because there wasn't much to be said. Everything I used to read 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, about the Watchtower always seemed to have a little glimmer to it. There was always some bright side to the story, like the convention that they would have during the summer. They really couldn't promote it enough, telling the people how great it was, the convention in Portland, Maine, or out in Tallahassee, Florida, wherever they would be, they would always boost it up somewhat. And of course, the Chamber of Commerce loved the Jehovah's Witnesses, and that was all over the news 20 years ago on how they came in and spent all this money. But the news has changed. It's not the same anymore. The Watchtower, as you all know, has a very tarnished image, and that image is beginning to really settle in to the general public and the court of public opinion. More and more people are realizing how dangerous and destructive the organization known as the Watchtower is, really hurting so many people today. And you're going to hear some of that tonight as people call in and tell their stories. Well, I just wanted to start off with a thought. And I think it's important to bring this up because right now the governing body seems to really be acting like kings. They're acting like celebrities. And what actually is the governing body's goal? What are they really trying to do here? This is I scratch my head. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I wonder what really is the goal of the governing body. If they're really a Christian organization, their goal should really be to teach you true Christianity. They're not even doing that. They're far from it. So why does the governing body continue to spew BS? Baloney. Well, why do they continue to do this? I'm not sure everyone in this community of the Six Screens has actually liked anything the governing body has done in the last 20, 30 years. Nothing. In fact, they've never done anything that would be redeeming or have any redeeming value. We all know that they continue to spew baloney. So what is it? The question I really, in speaking out loud here, is what is it? Or what did they do? What does a governing body get out of maintaining the organization? Well, we repeated it so many times here in the Six Screens. It's financial gain. That's one thing. I would say that's the main thing. But you guys know what comes after when you get all the money, when you get everything you want, which the governing body really has. You live in a nice house. You got $500 suits. You drive in nice cars. You're flying first class. You're having the life of Riley here. So what actually comes after? What actually comes after financial independence? Well, and you don't have to worry about making a living. Well, what comes after that? You got it. It's power. It's control. That's the whole world that we live in. Power and control. When people gain all the money, see, they excuse me 1 second. See, the governing body arrogantly proclaims that the Bible was written for them. No, they've made statements to that effect, that the Bible was written for them. In other words, the faithful and discreet slave, and that they are sharing everlasting life to the rest of us. I mean, that's what we all believe when we're witnesses, right? We really, we never really saw the governing body up front and close like we are today. But, years ago, we didn't even know who the governing body was. We knew there was a governing body, but we couldn't name them by names. We never even saw them. And so, they had more of a mystique back then. But boy, that mystique is really going away. After seeing these guys coming out on jw.org on the streaming video broadcast, it's despicable. Many of the witnesses aren't buying that this is God's chosen people on the planet. So, they're really not the kings that they think they are. And they're not the celebrities that they think they are. I mean, they're known in the Jehovah's Witness world as celebrities. We showed you videos here where, the governing body lands at an airport and there's witnesses waiting there to see them, just like the Beatles when they hit America, right? Well, the governing body, they love the attention. They really do. And so I was thinking, really, what is their goal? And I'm even trying to put some parallels together, some illustrations, some thoughts of what is the governing body like? Is there any other thing on this planet that could be similar to the governing body? Well, I think in terms of the royal family in England, that could be somewhat a parallel illustration, right? The crown royal family in England, and of course, what their goal is. You'd see it as obviously everybody knows what the goal of the crown royal family is in England is preserving the structure. Oh, they got to have all this pomp and ceremony, and they got to preserve the structure. Is the governing body doing that? Is that really what they're doing, preserving the structure? I have to say yes. I have to tell you, that's what they're trying to do. It's a great game, but the game is over. The game is really over. And, a lot of, in the last 20 years of doing JW World News, a lot of people have asked me the question. One of the biggest questions that people have asked me when I do the news and talk about the Watchtower and the governing body and all of the different stuff that goes along with the Watchtower, the biggest question about the governing body is, Rick, do you believe the governing body believes this is the truth? And my answer, and I look at, don't take it to the bank and cash it, just my answer, but just predicated on the position that I take on them. It doesn't mean you have to take the same position. I don't really believe that they believe this is the truth, that this isn't some self-contained spiritual program that every single person bought into. The rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses bought into it, and the very nucleus of the Watchtower organization is the faithful and discreet slave. And who was the faithful and discreet slave? That is the governing body. So the rank and file, they believe that concept. They believe the governing body is the channel. They are the ones that are dispensing meat in due season, and they honestly believe it. Just like at one time I did, and perhaps at one time you did. But does the governing body believe it? I say no. Now you might say, "Well, Rick, how can you be sure of that?" Well, let me just share this with you. I don't like to talk about it because people wonder about it, but back in the year 2000, I was invited down to Brooklyn, New York. I got to know Brother Loesch. I was of the anointed class. Now, don't hold me hostage on that, okay? Because we know what a lot of people in the ex-witness world think of the anointed. But I was a partaker, and I would partake of the emblems. And because I was of the anointed at that time, back at the 2000 area time period, uh, every anointed one was considered a member of the faithful and discreet slave. So I got to know Brother Loesch, and we talked on the phone numerous times. And Brother Loesch was staying in contact with me. He wanted me to let him know what was going on with the anointed outside of the Jehovah's Witness organization and with the governing body. In other words, the governing body is the internal part of the faithful slave. But what about the external part, the outside ones? Well, that was me. So he would contact me frequently, and we would talk about what's going on with the outside anointed, those that weren't in Bethel. And I have to tell you, every single anointed person that I contacted, and there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I had a hard time even finding them. I would go to conventions and assemblies, and I'd walk around at lunchtime and talking to people I never even knew, some of the brothers and sisters. And do you have any anointed in your congregation? And they'd say, "Oh, yeah, we got Sister Smith, but boy, she's an alcoholic." And then everyone I talked to, there was some problem with the anointed. And oh yeah, we got brother Zealous, but Zello, he's been in a psychiatric ward. So every single one that I talked to, there was some problem with the anointed in their congregations. So finally, I did get the name of 10. I got the name of 10 anointed. Now at the time, back at 2001, there was only 7,815 anointed, I believe, at the time. And 5,000 of those were brothers. The rest was sisters. But the reason why I even bring that up is Brother Loesch was concerned about how the witnesses are feeling about the anointed. So I told him they really, every time I come across a witness, they say that the deranged, the anointed are deranged, they're having a problem. But anyways, let that be so. So governing body member Loesch invited me to come down to Brooklyn, and it was for a potential position on the governing body. It's like an interview. And so I didn't really realize it at the time. But when I went down there, from what I was told, there was 3 other brothers that were also of the anointed class, and they were being interviewed for a potential position on the governing body. And at that time, they really had to have anointed ones be on the governing body, and even till today, they have to. But they've tried to bring helpers in and make them part of it, but it's going over like a lead balloon. Because, like I say, the nucleus of the Watchtower organization has to deal with the faithful and discreet slave, which of course is the governing body at this point. But anyways, let me show you. I want to show you a picture. Let me show you a picture just to let you guys be aware of what was going on back then. I'm going to show you a picture here that I have with Brother Loesch, and you'll get an idea of, because I want to talk a little bit about my experience when I went down there, and then I'm going to get to all that news articles as well. But this is a picture of me. I was only in my 50s back then. I look kind of young, right? So that's Brother Loesch. You can see Brother Loesch there to the left. And so anyways, that's my former wife there as well. That's Inez. And so we went down there, and we spent a good part of a day with Brother Loesch. And he asked us all kinds of questions and about the anointed on the outside and all of that. But what I realized what I realized when I was there, that this is nothing more than a business masquerading as a religion. And it was quite easy to see that. I was so disappointed. Imagine now you have an opportunity to meet the governing body members. And I met a number of them. And you have an opportunity to see the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses. And you're all excited. And you're really feeling good. You're feeling like, wow, this is better than going to Disney World. And when I got down there, wow, was I really disappointed. It was so unbelievable to me. I couldn't believe it, how it was like a business. Everything was business-like. It wasn't spiritual. It really, really wasn't. As a matter of fact, I can remember even walking through the fourth floor at 25 Columbia Heights. That's the office that Brother Loesch's office was on, and some of the other governing body. In fact, even the president of the Watchtower. All of the governing body members were on the fourth floor. And it was really off limits to the tour. But, Brother Loesch walked me around, showed me different things where the governing body met. He showed me all these things. But I'm saying, boy, this is more of a business than a religion. And there wasn't even like spiritual discussion that came up. It was all business discussion. And I was really disappointed by that, because I really thought at one time this was the truth. But to make a long story short, anyways, I drove away from there. I came back from New York, drove back to Boston. And I got thinking all the way home, I don't want any part of this. I do not. And even when I got home, I got a letter from Brother Loesch, a couple of letters from Brother Loesch, but I just kind of backed off. I did not want to be part of this organization based on what I saw. So that's my thought, and it brings me to the position that I have now. And the reason why I can say, do they really have the truth? Did they really believe that the Jehovah's Witness religion is the God's honest truth? I have to say no, just based on what I saw. But that's what I saw. I might have a hard time convincing you, but here's what I want you to think. If this really is the truth, and God is working with these men in this organization, would you have the issues of child sex abuse being covered up? If this was really God, Jehovah God's organization, would you have that? Would you really have people jumping off of buildings and committing suicide and all of these issues because of shunning? Well, would you really have that if God was leading these people? God wouldn't do that to people. Well, would you have any of this? Would you have people dying from refusing blood? No, you wouldn't. So would you have this tight control over people that they can't even live a normal life? Would that be God working through them? No. This is a money-making scheme. That's all it is. And the game is over. The game is over. And you know something? The governing body even knows it. Yes, they do. They know of all the PMOs. They know there's close to 4 million of them. They know that just about half of all the Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide do not believe in the Watchtower organization. They're just going through the motions. They're going through it in a perfunctory way. They're just going to the meetings, making it look like they're a witness, going out in service to some degree, making it look like they're a witness. But the final result is they're not. They're not. And eventually, they're all going to leave at once. It is going to be a stampede. But forget about the mass exodus. It's going to be a stampede. It's going to be crazy how many people are going to leave this organization. Well, I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to bring that up tonight because the governing body is getting a lot of attention lately. A lot of even the PMOs are saying, hey, what's wrong? What's wrong with the governing body? So I want to give my little spin on the governing body. So that's my spin. Okay. Any thoughts on that at all? All right.
Hey, Rick?
Yes.
This is your wife, Susan. I was thinking about your former wife. When you were at Bethel, when they were interviewing you, they weren't interviewing any women. There weren't any women, and there never have been any women on the governing body, even though they are anointed. In fact, They had no place. In fact, back in Abraham's time, God told him, listen to Sarah. There had to be a number of Sarahs that were available for help on the governing body back then, and there were no Sarahs. There aren't any Sarahs now. They don't accept women for any position of governance at Bethel.
Oh, Susan, I'm glad you brought that up, because it kind of brings me back to feeling. I'll tell you what happened. Okay, like I said, at the time there was 7,815. Was it somewhere in the 7,000? I can't remember exactly. But anyways, when we were there, Brother Lowe says, "Now, Brother Farron, we really do need anointed brothers here, because at the time, if you guys all remember, it was back in the late 90s. I believe it was the late 90s. There was an article in the Awake magazine that talked about governing body helpers. They call them the Nephilim, not limb, but Nephilim. And they were actually, it was on the back of the Awake magazine, and the Nephilim, they were people who helped the Israelites build the temple back in Jerusalem, even though they weren't Jews. But they helped. They carried the bricks and the mortar and the beams and what have you to build a temple. So the governing body, the Watchtower, was using this as an example to bring these Nephilim into the governing body arrangement. They could be governing body people, and it went over like a lead balloon. When I went and visited Brother Loesch back in 2000, that's one of the things he said. He said, Brother Farron, the phone is ringing off the hook. People are having a hard time with us having governing body members who were not anointed. So that's why they were trying to find anybody that was in good standing who claimed to be anointed, and bring them in and try to, put them in a nice suit and dress them up and send them out and talk to people. So that's why they were having these interviews, to bring more governing body members in. And lo and behold, as the years went on, they kept getting new ones in, and they wanted younger ones. So but the point I wanted to make, and my wife just brought up as well. So my wife also was of the anointed class. So we both partook back then. So what was awkward about that is when Brother Lowe said to me, Rick, there's only like 7,000, whatever it was, number of anointed. He says, and Brother Farron, how many of those do you think are brothers? I says, I have no idea. I mean, would you have an idea? I mean, how many of anointed are sisters and brothers? I wouldn't know that. I didn't have privy to that. But he says, 5,000 brothers is there's about 2,000 that are sisters. And then he made the comment, and what can they do? Well, I have to disagree with that. I didn't get into a big debate with Brother Loesch, but sisters can do a lot. I mean, the Bible even speaks about sisters, women in the New Testament being deacons in the church, so to speak, right? Priscilla, Aquila, I mean, remember them? Yeah, so women can do a lot. So I'm thinking, what is going on here? Well, what is Brother Loesch talking about? But see, they're not friends. The governing body does not believe this is the truth. They're in it for the money. Now, that's a pretty common thing. There's a lot of people and everything for the money. So I don't think it's outrageous to say that. No, I do not believe the governing body is part of this spiritual containment arrangement. No, the rank and file believe it. I say the governing body doesn't. Let's go with Donald first. Let's go to Donald in Texas. Go ahead.
I have a question here. This thing that you were mentioning about the sisters and the anointing and all that. It's funny that a sister can be anointed, because don't the anointed, when they go to heaven, aren't they supposed to be ruling? And if that's the truth, if that's what they believe, then how is it that a sister can go to heaven and rule, but she can't do anything in the kingdom hall? Where does that fit?
Well, see, that's why you can't make sense out of nonsense, Donald. These are all the things. These are all the things that were running through my head when I went down to Brooklyn. These,
I are women going to be queens in heaven? I mean, if those guys are going to be kings, then obviously the women have to be queens, right?
Well, that's how it would have been before. They didn't address themselves as queens. But let me tell you something, Donald. In the last 10 years, the Watchtowers changed their position on this doctrine. They have. Now, one time, all of the faithful and discreet slave, they were made up of anointed. But in the last 10 years, the Watchtower has so arrogantly proclaimed that the only anointed ones really are the governing body. They're the really only true anointed. All the others, I don't know really what they're calling them, mentally deranged, emotionally upset, something they're attributing some type of a mental condition to these anointed ones. And this is really disturbing.
But that brings up another question, okay? If the governing body is all the anointed, where is the 144,000 that they keep blabbing about? Only 144,000 are going to heaven. Where is all that coming from? If they're saying that all the so-called anointed are now mentally deranged, where is those other spiritual people that they've been talking so much about?
Well, what they're basically saying is they've already been chosen. They've already been chosen. And, they've played that game many times too, but they don't really even, I go over many of the Watchtower articles for my news broadcast here, but they don't talk much about the 144,000. Donald, since you and I were in the organization years ago, a lot of things have changed. They don't talk about the 144,000. They don't talk about 1914. They don't even talk much about Armageddon these days. They really don't. As a matter of fact, as we talked so many times from the 6 screens, that Armageddon is not even coming in their lifetime. So
if the governing body doesn't believe in the religion themselves, then wouldn't you be willing to say that the whole religion part of the organization is just to get people in so that they can give them money?
That's all it is, Donald. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, why would you? I just want you put your thinking cap on here for a second. If a person, there are good people in the world, Donald. You're a good man. I can tell you're a good man. You have you give away your books that you've been writing. You give away information that you've accumulated. It's taken you time and effort to do that, and you're doing it not to make a dime. You're trying to help people, but but I don't see that genuine desire to really help people. I can see the governing body as, I'm going to say, greedy. They're very greedy. There are many Jehovah's Witness families right now that are falling through the cracks. This economy, the economy that we're in right now, is very schizophrenic. We have families, Jehovah's Witness families that are living in with one another. We have homeless Jehovah's Witness families. We have people that just can't afford to even keep a roof over their head, and they get absolutely no help. Now, I'm not saying that the governing body should just hand out money to everybody, but with the amount of money that the Watchtower organization has got, you would at least think that in extreme cases they would help people that really have fallen through the cracks. I've never heard of one person being helped by the Watchtower. Now, I've heard elders. Yes.
Hi, it's RJ calling.
Yes, RJ.
I'm loving the conversation. I guess to keep up with your thing, I've noticed the greed of the governing body and the organizational structure. That's something else. I think they are greedy, and I think it's a one-way street. It all funnels up top. But what I've noticed about the rank and file witnesses is it seems like they give it all to Watchtower, so they're not very charitable in any other way except for their time, energy, and effort towards being a witness. Did you notice that too?
Yeah, well, that's been an ongoing practice, but it's getting worse.
I've never heard a witness saying, you know, I donated to this charity, or I did this, or I donated time outside of being a witness. I've never heard of any of that when I was in.
Well, I've heard of when I was in, you weren't supposed to give to these people. You weren't supposed to give money to the United Way or any of these, people trying to raise funds for the betterment of mankind. You were not. In fact, it was kind of taboo. I don't know if I ever read it. Yeah.
I think they're gassed out. Like they don't have anything left to give because they're giving all their free time and volunteer efforts and money to the Watchtower. There's nothing left to spread around after that, you know?
Well, I'll tell you, RJ, what really put the frosting on the cake, what really drove me to the point of understand the greed is what happened a couple of years ago in Ireland. And when I first reported that here on the six screens, and we all heard about it online and what have you, how the Watchtower organization in Ireland set up an asset management firm that they were going to collect millions of dollars, put it into this firm that was going to invest money for people to make money. And when I heard that one of the governing body members was part of that whole arrangement, Jody Jadell, governing body member of Jehovah's Witnesses, was part of that and kind of put this whole deal together. He was a big banker in Europe with the UBS Bank. And when I stop and think of all of this, I'm thinking, how is it that this organization can fleece the people and really make it known that they have this asset management firm, according to an Irish newspaper that would be equivalent to the Wall Street Journal in Ireland, and that newspaper reported the Watchtower in this firm, they had $7 billion. Now that wouldn't be all of their money, but I mean, to have that kind of money and invest it, I mean, you would think the Jehovah's Witness organization could at least help some of the poor witnesses in their fold. You would think,
Yeah. In America always had like a stability level, and you're seeing that kind of shaken up right now. Like in California, the West Coast and the East Coast, it's very expensive to live. And there's aspects of the economy where some parts are doing good, but the working class struggles. And being a witness, it doesn't make you immune to life's problems.
It sure doesn't. I mean, people are really falling through the cracks big time. I've got people who work with me. 3 of them are homeless. I've got one that lives in a tent outside our shop. I've got another one that lives in his car, and I've got a couple of new people that just came to work. A girl and a young girl, a young man. They're homeless. They have no place to go. It's too expensive. And can you imagine the position Jehovah's Witnesses are in right now? I mean, they have never really pursued a high-paying career, and now the position they're in, I can't imagine if this goes on much longer. You are going to see so many witnesses, I mean, just going down the drain quickly because of not just because of a career. I mean, sometimes you don't need a real high-paying career. All you need is a good job that you can go to work and work. In other words, no, I have to work tonight. I can't go to the meeting. I can't go out in service because I have to work Saturday. How many witnesses have been hurt because of, well, listen, if they won't let you go to the convention, you tell them to quit. I mean, the Watchtower would come right out and tell people to do that. Boy, that's smart. That's smart, telling people to quit their job and put people in financial distress. It's unreal what this organization's done to people. It really is. Well,
I think that's, Rick, I think that's like inflation. Like what inflation does is it makes volunteer time, like it makes it harder to volunteer your time because, if costs are low, you can give up some of your time, but if Subway used to cost $7 and now it costs $12, then you not working is costing you much more money now, you know.
Oh, absolutely, RJ. Well, thank you for calling in and chiming
But,
in. Yeah.
I was listening to your 144,000. I was listening to you talking about that in the Anointed. And did you ever try to do the numbers on that?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Like, is there about 15,000 anointed now, give or take?
No, there's 23,000.
23,000 in the witness religion, you know.
And then that's
God anointed. He anointed a clothing salesman in Pennsylvania about 150 years ago. So, you know, let's say the anointed is it's like a generation, it's every 25 years. So, if there's 20,000 people every 25 years, then that's at like 100, that's like 100,000, right?
I'll be over that, but it would be over that, yes, but that's a lot of people.
And then we got to talk about the wilderness years too, because they would still be anointed, right? The faithful servants that when there was no chosen religion from Jesus' time to the invention of
Yeah, but I mean, back in the first century, RJ, back in the first century, there were over 144,000 Christians. And this whole doctrine of the 144,000 was basically made up by Rutherford. And, you know, he did this to create this atmosphere of, you know, the special ones that would be delivering meat in due season. And, you know, but now it's catching up on them. And as we all know, we won't beat this to death tonight on the 144,000, but as we all know, those numbers should have been going down. Like I say, back in the year 2000, it was 7,800 or something like that in the 7,000s. Today, there's close to 23,000. So let's just think about it. Those numbers are supposed to be going down, not up, and that doesn't even account for the ones that are partaking silently. They don't take during the memorial. They go home and take the wine and the bread. They're afraid to take it. But just to make it perfectly clear here, I'm not going to make it a religious program, but just to make it perfectly clear, when you're a Christian, you're anointed. I mean, that's what the Bible even says, okay? You become 1 John 2, 20, 27. I'm not going to preach to you tonight, but that talks about the anointed. 1 John 2, 20, 27. And when you're a Christian, you're anointed. This idea of special people only receive God's anointing is not correct. It's not correct.
I think a lot of those sisters had been flappers and Bible students, and they were very spiritually strong, and they had wonderful hats. And the ones I knew were very centered, and like you say, they're going with that scripture, but they had to figure a way to move those former Bible students into the witnesses.
It's all made up, Pixie. It's the greatest.
But I'm just saying, from a doctrinal point of view, the ones I knew were ladies from the 1920s that had been Bible students, and so they partook because they weren't going to change their relationship with the Redeemer.
Well, I'll tell you.
I don't. You know, I can only talk about my section of the country, and my period when I was in. But the people who were anointed, they didn't really view them in like high regard. It was kind of, are you sure you are? Are you sure this person didn't lose their mind? You know,
that's the new way of looking at it. But the old days, 60, 70 years ago, those women and the men too, they had great respect in the congregation for them. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, it's altogether different. But anyways, let's move on. We're going to move on. We got other things to discuss here tonight on JW World News. But I wanted to give you that thought because right now the governing body, they're acting like kings. And I have to tell you, they really don't believe This is the truth. That's my thoughts. I mean, don't take it to the bank and cash it, but that's my feelings on it. Hey, let's move on. Let's talk about something else here that's very, very important. Yes.
Yeah, Rick, just a quick thought. In Anne Marie's program, she mentioned that Rutherford had two Cadillacs on each coast, and he was outdone by Jeffrey Jackson, who drives a Bentley, and you can buy five Cadillacs, which pays for a Bentley, and all the other elders, and not the elders, but the governing body, they see him driving a Bentley, and they don't say anything because they know it's a scam. They know that he's got the money from donations from little kids and widows that put their last pennies together and send it to Watchtower. And the Watchtower is giving Jeffrey Jackson the money, and he goes out and he buys a Bentley and a Hellcat and whatever. They live high, but they try to hide it. But I would agree with you, Rick. All those governing body members know they're running a scam. Thank you, Rick.
Well, always good to hear from you, Dick. Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Rick, exactly. Rick, there was a major change in doctrine that took place, and it was kind of quiet. And that, I think, affected the numbers of the anointed. I understand what you mean when you say the numbers are supposed to go down. I agree with you. It was in the 80s, however, that they started looking more, making up these things, reasons for why a person would be anointed. Is it perhaps something that happened in your life, or something, someone just died in your life, and so you're bringing back some Christendom ideas into your head? And so that was around the 80s that they started saying that kind of thing. Before that, they were highly respected. After that, they were less respected, like some feel it was. But in 2007, the old teaching used to be that the 144,000 had been filled. And, and then the great multitude started coming in. But in 2007, they opened the idea that perhaps the 144,000 had never been filled, that original ones were still coming in. And I think if you were to do graphs of the numbers of partakers, you'll find that there is a lot more growth in partakers after 2007 than before.
You're absolutely right, Zachary, with that. And they played different games. They just don't know what they were going to do. I mean, even Franz mentioned that, 1935 was the cutoff point. In other words, if you, after 1935, there'd be no more anointed. But what happened is the organization was embarrassed because more and more people kept partaking. So the Watchtower played many games with this. As a matter of fact, even right in the year 2000, we were told, my former wife and I were told, that we were replacements. That some anointed, and a couple of anointed must have went bad, so God picked us, so to speak. But I mean, I never. There's no such thing as that. That's not biblical at all.
And they used the illustration of an olive branch, I think, grafted in.
Yes, they did.
Grafting in. Yeah, remember that. And so in 2007, it was somewhere around July in the Watchtower, in one of those kind of "What does the Bible really teach?" articles. I don't know if that was the real name of it, but that's where they introduced that idea. And it does seem like the growth almost turned exponential in numbers of partakers.
Well, you're absolutely right, Zach. You're on the ball. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And the earlier subject you were talking about, the Nethinim.
Yes.
The term they use, it was an in-between helper and Nethinim. They translated into the term, the phrase "given ones," if I can remember.
That's right.
The Nethinim were the given ones. And of course, they would be helpers to the governing body. That's all I had to say.
Well, yeah, Zach, that, as I said earlier, that went over like a lead balloon. People, I couldn't believe it. Even when I went down there to Brooklyn in Loesch, even that's the very first thing out of his mouth when we had the interview with him is he says, Brother Ferrin, our phones are ringing off the hook. I'll never forget that. And I said, for why? Why? And he mentioned that about the non-anointed ones being brought in to help. They didn't like that. He says the witnesses don't like that. He says, but let me assure you that all governing body members have got to be anointed. He really profoundly emphasized that. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's take a look. Let's see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Now, we talked a little bit in Anne Marie's program. We can talk about it here tonight. How come during the district convention and during the assemblies, there was always a deficit, right? The brother would get up there and say, brothers and sisters, we are running a deficit all the time. I have never heard them say, we're doing really great. You brothers and sisters have given us plenty of money. We're able to meet all of our expenses. Did you ever hear that? Absolutely not. We were always running a deficit, at least in my neck of the woods. I don't know how it was out where you guys were, but while the organization, all right, we gotta mute ourselves here, folks. Don't unmute yourself because I'll get echoes like I just did. Just stay cool here until you open up the lines once again. But while the organization publicly emphasizes that all meetings and conventions are free of charge. How many times have we heard that? Oh, Jehovah's Witnesses are different than all other religions. They are free of charge. The conventions, our assemblies, the meetings. Well, there's internal accounting practices frequently, and we know it, they always lead to reports of deficits where they're asking for money, all right? So they're really not free of charge, even though the Watchtower might say, well, they are. But come on, folks. One thing, see, cognitive dissonance. You guys are, in fact, that's one of the first words I came across when I left the Jehovah's Witness organization. I didn't know what cognitive dissonance meant when I first left, but I got it now. So you can't have two simultaneous thoughts that conflict with each other come into your head at once. You can only accept one thought at a time, especially you have to go with the one that you have been trained to go with. And that's the organization. So they can tell you all the time that, well, we don't ever ask for collections. Well, and then you hear, there's deficits, we need money. You're only thinking the thought that we never ask for collections, but they are asking for collections. That's the cognitive dissonance part of it. Now, this fee, how do they really calculate this idea of being a deficit, or if they have an abundance? Well, what do? This fee is sometimes calculated as a proportional amount of the building's annual operating expense. So let's just say I went to the Natick Assembly Hall, Natick, Massachusetts. Many of you listening here probably went there too. But we'd go there, and what would happen is there was always a deficit. Every single assembly was a deficit. Now, they don't take that particular assembly and use it as a gauge. Well, what they do is during the course of the year, they take the cost of that assembly hall and what it costs to run it, electric, water, supplies. There's no taxes. So, they get away with murder on that. But all of the expenses, the building costs, and they roll that all into one figure. And then, of course, they divide it by the different congregations and assemblies they'll have there during the year. So they come up with an operating cost, an operating expense that they have to get each month. Now, I'm sure, look at friends, I have to tell you, it's expensive. It's expensive to have meetings and hold a meeting somewhere. I know. We had the convention, the ex-Jehovah's Witness convention up here this summer, and it's expensive. So I know there's expense that's involved in operating a convention or an assembly. So I'm not in any way saying that it's wrong for the Watchtower to collect money. That would be insane if I said something like that. But what's not insane is it's excessive. They really don't, they're not transparent about it. They're not honest about it. Let's go with that. A real Christian organization, I would think they'd be honest. I mean, if they feel that God is going to hold them responsible, they would. But I don't think the Watchtower is totally honest with their expenses. See, what they try to do, and they try to figure now, look at how many people are going to attend this assembly. Well, in Natick, about 2,000 people was about as full as you could get. It held 2,000. So they figure, the Watchtower does, at least currently, I don't know what it was back then, but today, if you're going to attend a convention or assembly, the Watchtower is thinking that they've got to get anywhere from $8.25 to $12 per person. So you got to run those numbers. You got to say, okay, we're gonna get, say it's $8.25 to $12. So say $10. Let's just come up with $10. So you say, okay, we can almost count on, okay, we get 2,000 seats, and we're gonna collect $10 from each person. I mean, I'm sure it varies, but say 10,000 from each person. You get 2,000 seats times $10. Well, that's $20,000, right? Am I right with that? Yeah. So what you got here is you got 20 grand, but maybe not everyone's going to put the $10 in that you're expecting. So, but even if they did, they're not being transparent and honest. They can still tell you we got a deficit. And as Gilbert, he called in earlier on Anne Marie's program, they were talking about this as well. And he said that what they would do is they would, before the convention or assembly even started, the brothers would make a motion to send so much money to the Watchtower before they even dallied up the totals of money coming in. So, example, okay, brothers, the convention, the assembly is going to start, but let's all pledge right now that we will send the Watchtower $5,000. Now that's going to come off the amount of money coming in. That's now an expense. So they don't really tell people that. Our electric bill, sometimes they do go specifically, but they usually don't tell you that they're sending the Watchtower money. The Watchtower, the Jehovah's Witnesses don't really get that. So the deficit is typically calculated at the start of the event. And so that amount of, say, 5,000 going to the Watchtower, that's going to add to the expense big time. So they can legitimately go up there and say, we have a deficit, and they can almost feel somewhat honest about it, but really, are they? So basically, I mean, if you want to get down to the bottom line on this, the event actually begins in the red, way in the red, and before any voluntary donations are tallied. Another thing, though, that there's a lot of critics. There's a lot of critics on this idea of the deficit. I'm one of them. I think it could be more transparent. I think it could be, once in a while we have a surplus, but you never hear that. But the timing of these announcements concern me. Yes, the timing of these announcements concern me. Financial reports about not enough money coming in at the assembly, they're read right before generally the convention has concluded. Now, why is that? Well, let's say it's Sunday, right? The convention or the assembly usually ends on Sunday. Well, they know that Sunday is the final day. That's the day when most people are going to give some money. They're going to dig into their pockets and give some money. So you got to really remind them that they'll say that we are running a deficit here, brothers and sisters. And we need this. We need more money to come in so Jehovah can meet. We can meet the arrangements that Jehovah God has put us here for. They always bring God into it too, right? So the So the organization maintains always that it never begs for support financially. But there's a cognitive dissonance thing right there. Well, what are they doing when they say there's a deficit? And so, anyways, they're viewed, these deficits are viewed by critics like me as a subtle form of solicitation to ensure financial targets are met before the event ends. So it's a way to really get people to open up their purses. Now, what we've been doing here at the Six Screens is I really want to give credit to my daughter. She has been helping us tremendously with these shots on YouTube and on reels on Facebook. And we've been doing these 1-2 minute clips, little video clips on different aspects of the Jehovah's Witness religion. So we got one last week. I want to tell you, Stefan, I asked the audience, what would you like to have one of these AI clips all about? And he says, well, make one, Rick, about deficits at the assembly. So I talked to my daughter about it. Her and I went to work this week. And so we do have one to show you. It's not out yet. It's not on YouTube, not on Facebook. You're gonna see it here tonight for the very first time, right here on the Six Screens program. So I'm going to show that to you. Let me just get my screen set up so you can see it. I'm going to share a screen, and I want you to see the video. Then I want you to tell me what you think about it. And this is what we call the deficit announcement video. And let me just get that. Okay, it's right here. And let's play that. I'm going to share it, and let's play it so that you'll see it. Let's play it right now.
Brothers and sisters, we're grateful for how Jehovah has blessed this assembly. To help us keep track of those blessings, Brother Martin will handle the financial accounting for our weekend together. Brother Martin?
Thank you, brother. Good afternoon.
Brothers and sisters, we would like to thank everyone in attendance for your loving support of Jehovah's arrangement for us to meet together. We also deeply appreciate those who have reached out regarding the privilege of assisting with the cleaning department. Regarding our financial report, we are currently running a deficit for this assembly. As the cost of expenses has risen, our current outlays exceed the donations we have received thus far. We thank you in advance for your kind consideration, and we know that Jehovah will bless your generous support.
Criticism of accounting practices at Jehovah's Witness conventions often centers upon manipulative financial reporting designed to solicit higher donations. While the Watchtower Society officially states that all giving is voluntary, specific deficit reporting tactics at large events have drawn scrutiny. These deceptive practices further prove that the Watchtower Society is nothing more than a multi-billion-dollar business empire, cleverly masquerading as a financially modest Christian religion.
Well, there you go. That's the newest one we've got. And we try to keep them short and sweet. And that's the newest one we've got. And I want to thank my daughter Jamie for helping us with that. We've got 5 of those videos out right now. One, of course, about Charles Taze Russell admitting he was a jellyfish. We have run about Rutherford during Prohibition, how he actually wanted to get rid of Prohibition. We have one on Johannes Grieber, and we've got this one here now on. We got this one here just tonight on the different arrangements they have for asking for money for the deficits. So anyways, that's it. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to get that up on Facebook. Nobody's seen it yet. I'm going to put that up on Facebook and YouTube. And I'll tell you, it's gaining we got an award on Facebook for a lot of views. We're getting thousands of views, and it has been very, very effective. So I want to thank Stefan for giving us the idea of doing that. Now, if you guys can think of anything you'd like to see in an AI video, and it really, it depicts realism. Go ahead. Yep.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Good.
Oh, am I on?
You're on. Yep.
Hey, Rick, I just wanted to tell you, you know that video you just played about the contributions?
Yeah.
At the assembly. You know what? When I was an elder for 15 years. Were you an elder?
Never an elder. No. I didn't want to be one. No, I stepped down. Well, not stepped down, but I was asked numerous times, but I just didn't want to be one. No.
Well, when we were young elders, me and Gilbert, we would go to the back, the first time after a circuit convention, they would invite all the elders. Remember, everybody cleans up and they go, all the elders have a meeting immediately after. And we would hear that announcement before. So what happened was, let's say the convention cost $6,000. I'm just making it up. total $6,000. The rent, the parking, everything. So let's say the contribution boxes were $3,000 on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. They would say on the Saturday evening announcement, they would say, we're running a budget deficit for this convention. And so everybody knows that the Sunday convention at the end is when the big money came in. And we would always cover that. The rest of the money came in on a Sunday. But the interesting thing, I don't know what happened in other cities, but I remember in my city, always. And when you're a young guy in your 20s, you don't understand what's going on. But the city overseer or the brother in charge of the convention overseer, we would have a meeting, and then he goes, any other points or agenda for the meeting? And he would always raise his hand, and he goes, how much money did we come up with the assembly? And they said, well, we made $10,000, so we have $4,000 over. And he would always raise his hand. He would say, I move that we send the $4,000 to the Watchtower. And all the elders would vote for it. Even if the congregation, even if the circuit was hurting for microphones or hurting for other stuff, they would always send the excess money. And when you're a young brother, you don't know what's going on. But it was almost like a cleaning house for the Watchtower, the conventions. They would send in, so that video that you played, it's right on the money. Of course, Saturday morning, the circuit convention was going to be in a budget deficit. But Sunday night is when they made it. And that's why the elders always had the meeting on the Sunday night after the second day of the convention. And I found it interesting. All the budget surplus, it always got shipped back to Watchtower.
Well, that's how they do it. Kind of scandalous, not that transparent, you know. Well, thank you, Jesse, for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
This is Stephen. First of all, thank you for the video. That was an amazing video. You know what that reminded me of, Rick? I don't know about you, but the entire time when I was a witness, I always felt uneasy whenever the topic of money was brought up. Like, you go to the meetings, and of course, you donate, and every now and then they'd encourage you to donate. This constant solicitation for money is more of a modern thing. But when I was coming up, 20s, 30s, they very rarely mentioned that. But I began to realize that Watchtower was never really quite transparent with the money. Even at the local congregation level, every blue moon, they have a box for this and a box for that, and they read an announcement, this box is for this and this is for that. But you never really felt like you really understood where this money was going. We're giving money. It's going to kingdom, I've forgotten what the term was, kingdom something or the other, but at the end of the day, where does this money really go? There just wasn't any, transparency. And then I started thinking about the fact that we all felt uneasy whenever the topic of money would be brought up, because we were always telling people we were so different. And this is why it's so disappointing. We would tell people we are so different from these other religions because we don't pass the plate, as if passing the plate is the only way conceivable that you can ask for money. There's a billion different ways you can ask for money. We would just make a big deal because we didn't use one particular method. But that's what we thought, and that's what we told people, and that's what we believed. But it was interesting to me when I thought about it. I was always uneasy with the topic of money. And then, like I said, you never really knew where the money was going. And then you go to an assembly. How the heck can you be in a deficit at an assembly hall that you own and you've only been there a day and a half? And so you just, this video and the conversations that we have just really kind of clears this whole thing up. This is just nothing more than a money-making venture. And just like you asked a number of questions if the governing body really believed this, and two popped into my head. One is, if the governing body really believed that this was Jehovah's organization and they were given oversight over it, would they be kicking Bethelites out on the street who had served in Jehovah's house for decades, sometimes most of their adult life, with nothing? No, they wouldn't do that. If they really believed that this was God's organization, and if they believe that Armageddon is right around the corner, which is, again, what they've been preaching all along, this business of, oh, maybe it won't happen in your lifetime, very new phenomena, just a couple months old. But we were always told it's right around the corner. Well, if you really believed it's all right around the corner, would you then engage in a multi-year, multi-million-dollar building project if you really believe that Armageddon was right around the corner? So, no, just like you said, they don't believe it. Watchtower is nothing more than a money-making business. Thanks, Rick.
Well, go ahead.
And not only that, I was just thinking too. You know, years ago when y'all built the Kingdom Hall, it was your Kingdom Hall. You know, y'all built it. It was yours. You paid for it, and you owned it. Well, now Watchtower owns all the Kingdom Halls, but instead of, you know, they claim they forgave the loans, but really what it was is just they just reworded it because now the Kingdom Halls, each congregation, I guess, has to pay Watchtower the same amount of money that they were paying for their so-called loan. Now they're paying that for whatever. So yeah, you got all that money going to Watchtower, plus the convention money going to Watchtower. And like you said, you know, they're a multi-billion-dollar religion or organization. You know, they've got real estate all over the place that they're making tons and tons and tons of money from. So where is all this deficit that they keep talking about? I mean, I know why they say it. I guess they say it to try to get you to give more, I think is what it is. They want people to empty their pockets pretty much and empty their purses and their bags and give them everything they've got, I think is what it is. And it's just greed. It's just nothing more than pure satanic greed.
Well, you're right, Donald. And then I often think too, like you just said, they keep asking for more. Not only do people give it to them when they're alive, then when the people die, they encourage them to leave property and jewelry and estate and all of that to them. So these guys really, when you think about it, and I like what Stefan said too. And how can you really be, have the truth and be on God's side and God's on your side and let all these Bethelites go and kick them to the curb? And how can you do that? Telling the people Armageddon's right around the corner at the same time building this big, gigantic, $500 million video studio up in Ramapo, New York. How can you really, if you really had the real truth and you really were telling people the truth, then you wouldn't be doing these things. And if God was really with you, you wouldn't be doing them. So just common sense will tell you, right?
Yep.
Are you there? Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, just a thought on the assemblies. Every time I ever went to an assembly, it's always a new release. You had to have that new release for the book study. You had to go to the book study. It would cost you, they would be selling books for $6, and the cost of the book was maybe $1. So they make $5 on every book. And if they were made it and there's 2,000 people there, they're going to make 10 grand. And, how can they have a deficit when they make that kind of money? And also, they get a project going on up in Ramapo, and it's going to be completed in the year 2030. And then they're going to start using it, but it's not going to be built until 2030. How can they keep on to with the last seconds, the last minutes, and then they're projecting out another 5 years, and then all those years they're going to be using that building? Whatever happened to the last seconds of the last minutes of the last days is ludicrous. And it is cognitive dissonance that get people's mind all screwed up, and you're always saying it's the truth, it's the truth. So you're like a little child, you believe what daddy and mommy tells you, which is a governing body. Just like when you were a kid, when they told you about Santa Claus, you believed it. It made perfect sense. Reindeers without wings that could fly, and all that stuff. And they're treating us, not us, because I'm certainly out of it, but they're treating the rank and file like children that don't believe anything. Thank you, Rick.
Well, always good to hear from you, Dick. My goodness gracious. Boy, we can never stop talking about the Watchtower. It's unbelievable. I wonder what the obsession is. Sometimes I wonder, why do I do this? I mean, I'm not making any money with it. There's no financial gain. I don't ask for patrons. I don't try to collect money from people. I say, why do I really do this? I think what it is, and I think why a lot of activists are doing what they do is they really have a genuine desire to help people. No selfish gain, but just to help people. I wish someone could have helped me. I would have loved to have a YouTube video when I was 15, 16 years old and be able to have a forum like Reddit or listen to Facebook. That wasn't around, none of that stuff. But boy, I'll tell you what, I would have loved that as a kid. In fact, most of us listening here tonight probably wouldn't have been Jehovah's Witnesses if this was available then. So I thank YouTube, I thank Facebook, I thank Reddit, I thank all of these forums where people can get on and tell their story, including the 6 screens, where people can tell their story of how they were treated in the Watchtower organization. And the word's getting out, folks. Yes.
Yeah, just one more thought. I think the audience might like to know this. You never asked me to say anything about this, but I know you had the convention last August. I asked you, how much is this costing you, Rick, out of your pocket? It was well over $20,000 out of your pocket. And how many thousands of dollars, maybe $100,000 over the last 20 years running a program? That's a lot of love for people you don't even know. So I think maybe the audience should know that. Maybe they'd be annoyed with me for bringing it up, but I just kind of felt it was apropos. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Dick, but really, how I feel is this. You know, I've often said this when we first started the 6 screens, 20 years ago. I said, you know, it'd all be worth it if we could help one person. And I have to tell you, we've helped more than one. I get so many people who have written here to the 6 screens and sharing their stories and how it's helped them get out of the Watchtower and their whole family get out of the Watchtower in some cases. And even in some cases, how people have, changed into a real understanding of Christianity from listening into our Sunday programs. And so that makes me feel good that, sometimes money is important, obviously, but sometimes you can get a genuinely good feeling without money involved. And then I do get a good feeling. I really, really do. Sharing my thoughts and then you guys sharing your thoughts, it helps a lot of people. Really does.
Hey, great.
Yeah, who's this, Gilbert?
Yeah. Hey, I hope you guys have a notepad out, but remember we talked about, you were asking about if the governing body believes their stuff. They even believe in their own religion. And if you want to go back, remember years and years ago, about three plus years ago, you and I would talk about how Watchtower was like Sears and Roebuck. Remember that?
Yes.
And we would talk about that. And you and I know, because we go back, we hate to say how, our age, but we know that the Discover credit card came from Sears. Allstate was at Sears. The furniture, the greatest paint store was at Sears. They had everything. They had more. They were Amazon in everywhere. They were it. They had the catalog. It was better than JCPenney catalog. They had everything on the shelf. So, but what did they do? Well, they got rid of Discover. They got rid of Allstate. They got rid of the paint store. They got rid of the furniture store. They got rid of Craftsman. They got rid of Kenmore. They just kept getting rid of things. And that's a Jehovah's Witness. Because I know you like to describe Watchtower like a failing business as well. Watchtower doesn't have anything on the shelf anymore. They don't have panda bears. They're not talking about Paradise Earth. Paradise Earth ain't coming in your lifetime. They don't know what to do with 144,000. They're at a loss because it's like Sears and Roebuck. They don't know what to put on the shelf. They sold everything. What are they going to sell? They can't sell paint. They sold the paint store. They can't sell car insurance. They sold Allstate. They sold all of their ideas. They abandoned all of their ideas. They abandoned the panda bear. They abandoned all of their teachings. The clean cut Jehovah's Witness, and now he wears beards and unbuttoned T-shirt. They have nothing left. So how can you be a leader of a religion and believe in your religion. They got nothing to do. The shelves are empty, Rick. They're an empty shelf.
Well,
They're like
not only empty shelf, but their expiration date expired too, Gilbert. I mean, it's over. It's just taken off the shelf. It's done. It's cooked. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're supposed to be white, not green.
Yeah.
It's expired, yeah.
Well, thank you, Gilbert. Thank you. I appreciate.
Hey,
Rick.
Hold on. We hold on. We got Susan here trying to get in. Susan, go ahead. You're on with us.
Oh, my thought was just the first time that I heard your program, I knew that this was it. I knew that this would help. This is just like going to a therapist every week because you can get out whatever you feel, whatever you've done, whatever the Watchtower, puts you through. You can discuss it with others and get solutions or just get it off your chest. It makes you feel better. It's just like having a meeting with a therapist. And a therapist, how much does that cost every week? But you get this for free. And it's perfect because people know exactly what you've gone through. The therapist does not. Trust me, I've tried many, and none of them even touched what the Watchtower has done to me at all. But others, yes, what they went through, what they had to do, yes. And so if I had to come out of a congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, I would come right back to the 6 screens because every week you ask people, what's your story? What do you want to say? What do you need to get off your chest? And you could do it. And it costs you nothing, literally nothing. The Watcher says it doesn't cost you anything, but it costs you at least your life and your beliefs. Whereas this doesn't cost you anything. You don't charge, and you never have.
Well, thank you, Susan.
I want to personally say thank you because I would be out of the Watchtower myself if it wasn't for the 6 screens.
Well, I appreciate that, Susan. Now, that's in fact for those that don't know, that's Susan. That's my wife, and we've been married now. It's gonna be 14 years, actually 12 years. I'm sorry, and we got married. Susan used to listen to the program, and she really liked listening to the 6 screens and the people calling in and talking, and we got to know each other. She wanted to come up here and help me, and she did, and we fell in love with each other, and we got married. So she's she's telling you the truth. She used to listen to the 6 screens. She was a witness in the Midwest in Chicago, and that's how we met, right here on the 6 screens. So we have a good relationship now. We love one another and we help one another. And she helps me do this program as well, because I'll tell you what, coming up with for every week, we have to come up with information. And I want to thank everyone that sends information into 6 screens for the JW World News. And Susan does it every week and gives me information. I look at everything. I've got sometimes hundreds of emails, of news articles. People write, bring this up, Rick, bring that up. So you try to go with the stuff that really could, you want to make it, enjoyable. You want to make it somewhat entertaining. At the same time, you want to keep it informative. So I want to thank all those people that help us, sending us news articles and what have you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, Donald, do you want to say something?
Rick, I have a quick question for you. That Spanish group that came out to do the documentary of you guys up there at the convention last summer, do you have any idea when that's going to be out and available? Now, I don't have Netflix, but you said it was going to be on Netflix, I believe, but I was wondering if it was going to be on other sources as well, because I sure would like to watch that when it does come out.
Well, from what I understand right now, is they are in the process of getting networks to accept it. And hopefully they're shooting first at Netflix. So, we'll be out. Movies sometimes take a little bit of time, but I can't give you any real definitive answer. But I think in the next month or two, we'll hear, as soon as I get information from them, I'll be glad to share it. Because I'll tell you what, that's not just because it was filmed up here in Boston at the ex-Jehovah's Witness convention that it's going to make it anything special. But what will make this a little different than other movies that have been made about the Jehovah's Witnesses is, this is the first time that there was an ex-Jehovah's Witness convention, and there was 350 people there. So it was quite good because it's going to show the audience who watches the movie that, it's just not one man, Rick Ferrin, disgruntled with the Watchtower. We have 350 people. We have 350 people. So it's got some validity to it,
And like Susan said too, this, of course, that's all part of Six Screens. What I learned from Six Screens is all the stories that people tell about their experiences with Watchtower. Them growing up in the religion, working their way out of the religion, some that have been abused in the religion, and so forth. And when you hear all these stories, it helps to build this scaffolding of what everything is like in the religion, because you hear it from the actual people that were actually there. You're not hearing just Watchtower's narrative on it. You're hearing the actual members, the people that were a part of it, that had their experiences. And all that's important for those that, unlike me, who, I wasn't into religion for all that long, but for those who were raised in it and had trouble with it, Six Screens helps people. I mean, it really does. And it helps. It's a way to let your feelings out. It's a way to vent if you need to, and so forth. And it just helps. Like Susan said, it helps. It really helps a lot.
Well, thank you for saying that. At the very inception of doing this, it always wasn't on YouTube and Facebook. It started off as a conference call. So there was always people calling in. And we started off on a telephone line 20 years ago. And it was amazing when we first started, there wasn't that much going on. We probably had, maybe 10, 12 people involved with us. But now we have thousands really that listen on YouTube and Facebook. So things have changed. And what's helped it change is the Watchtowers helped it change because they got uglier as the years went on. And the uglier and more defiant they became, the more people started leaving it. And so they were trying to find answers to what's going on with this thing. So they've been coming in and listening to us. So it's been good. Yeah.
Let me say it again. I want to let people know this. They want to get the information that I have on the Watchtower and so forth. They can email me at dbrwn@aol.com, and I'll send them a file. Well, actually, it's a bunch of stuff, but it's called "The Tower Finally Falls," and it's all kinds of stuff on the Watchtower. So if anybody wants it, it's free of charge, and y'all can have it.
Well, that's nice you do that, Donald. And you're a very knowledgeable man, and you have a good way of presenting information here on the Six Screens. We always appreciate you, Donald. You're a good guy. Don't you ever change, okay?
I like being a
Rick.
Yeah, who's this?
Stefan, I just wanted to add just an extremely brief thought. I really like how you and Gilbert are analyzing the decline of Watchtower from a business perspective, because to be honest, that's exactly what they are. That's how we need to be looking at them. They're not a religion, never have been. They've always been a business. But the other thing that I find really shocking with all the things that you guys have mentioned, and even Brother Borgie, who mentioned how they don't print literature anymore, which is amazing. They used to brag about how much literature they printed, but they don't even teach the Bible anymore. If you ever go back and just really listen to any of these, recent discourses or talks, whatever they call them, they're not really teaching Bible anymore. They're not teaching any kind of substantive anything about the Bible. They just teach their own brand of Watchtower narrative. Pick a verse, a Bible verse here, pick a Bible verse there, knit them together, and that's a message. But in terms of actually studying, even though they say, well, what are you talking about? We read the Bible 2-3 chapters every week. We go through the whole Bible every year and a half, whatever it is. Reading is one thing. Studying is something completely different. They do not study the Bible anymore. They don't teach the Bible anymore. And that's part of the reason why their preaching work is so ineffective, because they really don't know what they're talking about. And you can also tell they don't even educate the members so that they can defend the Watchtower teachings as well as the Bible. They just want you to place literature or direct them to the website or play a video. So they don't even teach Bible anymore. And it's just a shame that the rank and file can't see it. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Stefan. Yeah, we talked about the 5 stages of business collapse, and I'm waiting for the 5th stage right now of the Watchtower. Well, we're not there yet, but generally what happens, stage 5 of a business collapse, is there's a lot of dissension at the top. Now, there has been dissension at the top certain periods during the Watchtower. But let's go back to when Rutherford took over. There was dissension. Let's go at the early 80s when Ray Franz, governing body member, said that was it with the Watchtower. There was dissension then. But what we're looking for here is major dissension right across the top of the officials, the governing body, the ruling power of the Watchtower. When we started, and I started to see stage little pieces of this happening when Tony Morris was kind of let go. So somehow, some way, I believe that he did not agree with the Watchtower on certain issues, or he was totally renegade or something. So they've got to really quell that. They got to put a stop to that, because if that could gather momentum, it could really cripple the Watchtower. That would be the final stage of a business collapse. And when there's a lot of dissension at the top, where everyone's now doing things, well, brother so-and-so said this, but we're going to do this. I'm going to do it this way. He's wrong. And a lot of gibber-gabbering along. And before you know it, the business collapse. We're not there yet. We're still in stage 4. We're still in stage 4. Stage 5 is right around the corner. Well, you're on 6 screens, JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but let's take a look. Let's take a look and see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this at all, but all of a sudden, Watchtower, all of their publications, well, I should say the magazines, at least the Watchtower as of late, has been really emphasizing baptism. They are doing everything they possibly can to get people baptized. And even younger ones are starting to get baptized more than ever. And if you guys were in the organization for any length of time, how many times have you heard it said that the best day of your life was when you were baptized, the day you were baptized? Now, I have to disagree with that. I think that was one of the worst days of my life. I was coerced into doing it. And how many people listening into this program tonight were actually coerced or forced to be a baptized Jehovah's Witness? And as many people listening to our program tonight, that happened to them. Or somehow, some way, they got baptized and kind of regretted it. And they never looked at it as the best day of their life. But how many times have we heard that from loyal Jehovah's Witnesses? Are they just trying to sound more loyal? Are they just trying to sound more spiritual? I mean, really, was the day you got baptized the best day of your life? I can't really say that. I really, really can't. As a matter of fact, I think it's, I'll tell you, some of the information coming in here to the 6 screens really shows me. In fact, I want to thank the people that have shared their thoughts with me. But one person, in fact, was baptized when he was 13 years old. 13 years old. And of course, he went into the pool, and he came out as a baptized Jehovah's Witness. And the next day he went to school, from the information I got on him. He went to school the next day, and he cried his eyes out while on the toilet. He just couldn't believe that he got baptized. He said he started feeling a huge disappointment. He didn't feel the best that day, he said. He really didn't. And in fact, what really got him really thinking, he started really getting a lot of anxiety, is that now that he's baptized, he can now get disfellowshipped. And that was overwhelming. Did you ever feel that? I mean, really?
Rick, everything I've ever read about baptism with the JWs, to me, it's a contract. That's what their baptism is. It is a contract. It is a business contract because they don't mention that you're baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Matter of fact, they leave the Holy Spirit out of it, and in its place, in the Holy Spirit's place, they put that they ask you, don't you realize that your baptism makes you one of Jehovah's Witnesses? And there's nothing in the Bible about that at all. I mean, this is all about being a contract, and that's why they push for it. And that's probably why they're pushing for it again, because they're losing so many people that they think that baptism will make you a solid member of that religion. And they think that by baptizing more people will get them more members, more count. They'll have more people to brag about, to say, oh, now, see, we're growing. You know, we got this many people baptized, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, like I said, baptism to them is nothing more than just a business contract, is what it is.
Well, Donald, what we've been doing here in the last, I'd say the last month or so, is we've been reporting on congregations that are baptizing people that aren't even qualified to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. These are people that, you know, they haven't been coming to the meeting regularly. They don't comment at the meetings. They don't go out in the service. But the Watchtower, as of late, is very eager to baptize them and put them in the ranks of a baptized Jehovah's Witness. And of course, this makes them look good. So there's a real effort right now by the Watchtower organization to do this. But, you know, as far as being, you know, this idea of being baptism was the best day of my life, I really don't see that for me. Maybe you guys have a different feeling on that, but I'll just throw the question out there. If you're a baptized witness, was your baptism the best day of your life? Do you have regrets after you got baptized? I mean, did you go out of there hitting your head on the doorpost on the way out that you were so excited? I don't think so. But yet the witnesses will tell you that. They'll tell you the best day of your life was the day you got baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I really don't see it. And then yes.
So I was another one that got baptized. I thought I got baptized at 14, but after I really sat down and thought about it, I hadn't turned 14. I got baptized at 13 in December. And I realized, after I really thought about it as a grown-up, it was the fear that they put in you that if you're not a baptized witness, Armageddon comes, you're going to die. And then also as a kid, you know, you go to meetings and you're just sitting there doing absolutely nothing, a male kid. And then when you ask, hey, can I do some of these things, carry a mic? And all, well, you have to be baptized. So just the desire to do something other than just sitting at these meetings every week was another major driving force, if I'm honest, as to why I got baptized. Now, after I got baptized, for me, there was a tremendous fear because my dad was disfellowshipped after maybe 2 years of being a witness. He didn't want any parts of it, and he left. He could care less what they did, so they ultimately disfellowshipped him. So I had all this guilt on me, but whether I was going to stay faithful to Jehovah or whether I was going to be a disappointment and be like my father. So it was for me personally, it was a major weight that I carried for many years. So that's how I felt about baptism.
Yeah, well, that was young, Stephen, getting baptized at 13. Boy, that can really be a real dilemma, you know, because really at 13, you're kind of still a young kid, and you can't really make decisions like that. But we were coerced into it. Well, I wasn't 13. I was about 17 at the time, but I wish I never did it, like all of us, right? Like all of us. Yeah, but we did it, and then you have to pay the consequences. But it's really something. The witnesses, I'll tell you, they really baffle me in their way of thinking, and I've heard that so many times. I wanted to bring it up today that it wasn't the best day of my life. It really wasn't. It really wasn't the best day of my life. Yes. What do you think?
Hi. Yeah. So this is Nicole.
Yes, Nicole.
I remember when I got baptized, when it was the day of my baptism. growing up as a teenager, I was a runner in the sense that whenever anything is unknown to me or I'm afraid, I would take off running. And the girl who introduced me to the religion, she said to me on that day, as a matter of fact, she came and picked me up to take me to the convention because she knew she had, based on what I told her, that I was so scared, I was so nervous that she was afraid that I wouldn't show up at the convention. So she and her family came and they picked me up. And then when we got to the convention, there's the seating area for all the baptismal candidates. That year, I think it was 128 of us that year. And she had her father, and he was an elder. She had him sit with me so that I don't bolt. I don't leave the convention site and go home because she knew how nervous and afraid I was. And she knew I was a runner. I would take off whenever whenever I discerned something as dangerous, I would take off. So when I told her days in advance that I'm very nervous and anxious, don't worry, girl, we got your back. We got your back. And she made her father sit with me through the entire talk until it was time to get baptized. And she followed me into the change room, made sure that I was all changed up and everything, and got baptized that day. And for the rest of the day, and I believe probably the week, I was still anxious, nervous, wondering if I made the right decision. So that's my story.
Well, thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. My goodness, huh? What these guys put you through? They put you through the ringer. It's unbelievable. So that wasn't the best day of your life. I'm sure of that. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us, Nicole. You know, we have a man, Dick Borgie, who was listening in. I always enjoyed. I don't know if he's still listening or not. I believe he is, but if he's on there, I'd love to have him tell the audience how he, on his baptism day. Boy, I'll tell you what, that was quite a story he told. Oh, you did, Dick? Why don't you tell us? I'd love to tell the people a story about your baptism day.
Yeah, I became a Jehovah's Witness for a number of reasons. One of the reasons was that if everybody, the person I studied the Bible with said, if everybody in the world was a Jehovah's Witness, there wouldn't be any wars. Well, most people know that I saw war up close and personal. I was involved in it. And it's horrendous. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason was that Armageddon was going to come in 1975. And I didn't want to be destroyed. I made it through one war, and I didn't think I would have a good chance of making it to another war unless I was a Jehovah's Witness. So I went to an assembly. I was going to get baptized at assembly. I went to my towel and the whole bit. And there was a drama part. And in the drama, it was marching around Jericho 7 times, and the walls came tumbling down, and Jehovah's people went over the walls and killed everybody, just absolutely killed everybody. Then I realized that as they had to trek through the desert when Moses was leading them, they had wars with the Amorites and this, and they just warred with everybody, and they killed a lot of people. These were God's people being directed by God, and they were killing other people with the sword, which is pretty nasty. When we killed people in Nam, we did it with a rifle. They weren't necessarily that close to us, but when they were doing it in ancient Israel and leaving Egypt, they were killing people with knives and swords, no guns in those days. So I'm there getting ready to be baptized, and they had the drama. And wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. God's people can't join the military now because you'd go to jail. You'd rather go to jail as Jehovah's Witness than go in the military. But God's people could kill anybody they wanted to. Right back in the day, so it didn't make any sense. So I get up and I started heading to the exit. Presiding overseer, a great guy, wonderful man, Jim Hossel. He chased me down. He started running down the aisles, and he grabs me. Where you going? I said, listen, how can Jehovah's people, they can kill people in biblical days, but now that they can't? He says, Dick, he says, once you get baptized, the Holy Spirit will come to you and you'll understand. So I believed him. So I got baptized, and I was waiting. Next morning, I'd wake up. I prayed that night. And I said, Jehovah, when I wake up, please explain to me so I'll be able to understand. Well, I had no epiphany. I had nothing. I was baptized, and to this day, how can Jehovah's people in ancient days kill people, and now they can't? What's the story on that? Nobody had an answer for that. They still don't have an answer for that. Thank you, Rick.
Well, yeah, that always fascinated me, Dick. I mean, how many people really? Well, you use the word coerced a lot too. I'll use it here tonight. A lot of us were coerced into getting baptized. I believe I was. When you're young, you're very much able to bend with people's ways of thinking, and I bent with my sisters. She thought I should get baptized. She got baptized and says, Rick, she's my older sister, you should get baptized now. So she kind of pushed me into it. But, we were all coerced, many of us. Many of us did it on our own. But I don't think there's anyone listening to this program tonight that now is out of the witness world that is thinking, geez, I don't think anyone's thinking it was a great day for them. But anyways, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because I'm thinking I got a valid, even though the Watchtower might not accept it, I think I really have a valid defense for you saying that my baptism is invalid. And I'll tell you what, I got thinking about this today. Have you ever wondered who actually has the authority to baptize you? Now, well, let me put it another way. What if the wrong person baptized you? Now let's just think of this in the witness world. Some of those guys jumping into the pool and baptizing people, they might be pedophiles. I mean, let's face it, with the amount of badness going on in the Watchtower, who's to say that one of those baptizers jumping in the pool to baptize you he could be a pedophile? So if he baptized you, and this guy is a complete sinner to the highest order, so to speak, according to the Bible even, is your baptism valid or invalid? I know it's a hypothetical question, but it does have real implications. So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just another thought on that. To get baptized, you have to have accurate knowledge. When I got baptized in '73, accurate knowledge was Armageddon was coming in the fall of 1975. That was accurate knowledge. We find out now that it's a lie, and Rutherford was a drunk and a womanizer and a person that abandoned his wife and hang around a mistress. And C.T. Russell was and a 14-year-old. That's pedophile. And he did Miracle Week. That was a scam. When you start, what I believed in 1973 was that Russell was a wonderful man, very spiritual, picked out by God Almighty, Jehovah. And Rutherford was even a better man. But we come to find out that these people aren't what their PR is. My point is, if you got baptized like I did, I got baptized so I would be protected when the war was going to come in 2 years, because I didn't want to die. That was it. I wasn't spiritual. I was a drunk. I used marijuana. I had sex with any woman that would have sex with me. I wasn't a nice guy. I killed people. I don't know if I said that. Well, I did. Anyway, I just didn't want to die at Armageddon, so I got baptized. My baptism was a fraud. It wasn't for the right reasons. I didn't really want to serve God. I didn't want to die at Armageddon. That was it. That was the whole thing. My sister convinced me that Jehovah's Witnesses were the truth. And, I believe their position on not going to the military made a lot of sense to me at that time, because I didn't have accurate knowledge. So anyone in the audience out there that got baptized and you didn't have accurate knowledge, your baptism is null and void. That's not me saying that. That's just common sense. It's null and void. So if you've been in this fellowship like I have, to me, that doesn't mean a single thing at all. I'm not embarrassed about it or anything else. It's unfortunate my two boys are still hooked up in it, but you can only change what you can change. And I'm going to go on 6 screens forever and saying the Watchtower is a fraud. And they baptize people that shouldn't be baptized. You can't baptize a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old. That's ludicrous. Thank you, Rick.
Well, appreciate it, Dick. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And, is it, if a person was baptizing you and was a pedophile or a promiscuous, sexual-minded person and a real sinner, would that make your baptism invalid? Well, I started looking into. Did you want to say something? Who's this?
I'm pretty sure, but I'd like to take a crack at it because I've gotten a lot of phone calls. People ask me what you just asked, and I'm sure you've gotten a lot of phone calls. And this is why the phrase that the famous Russian Limbaugh would always say is words mean things. You have to get this into your brain if you're listening, that words mean things. So, for example, when a man and a woman get together, they marry each other. They're not married by a minister. The man marries the woman and the woman marries the man. When you get baptized to the Father, to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's something that you do. It's not bestowed upon you. This is what you do, and you give yourself to God, you give yourself to Jesus, you give yourself to the Holy Spirit, and you get baptized. No one baptizes you. That's just a formality like a preacher or a judge or a magistrate. So the point is that words mean things. And this is where a lot of people don't, this is where a Watchtower is very good. This is what communists do. They always play with the language and they confuse you. But if you feel that you need to get baptized again because a pedophile, Jehovah's Witness, was the one in the pool with you, then that's fine. There is no rules. The rules are, this is your gift. You're giving yourself as a gift. As a thank you. I'm giving myself to God. I'm giving myself to Jesus. If you want to get baptized every year, there's nothing written that you can do it. And this is the thing that people understand. There is nothing set in stone. This is your gift to God. This is your gift to your Father. And if you want to get baptized every year, do it. If you want to get baptized every 10 years, do it. And whatever, and I got baptized July 1986. This summer will be 40 years. I was 15 years old. I knew exactly what I was doing. Do I regret it? No. Do I regret having been baptized Jehovah's Witness? Yeah. But I knew exactly what I was doing. And I wasn't getting baptized to be a Jehovah's Witness. I was getting baptized because I really did love God and I really loved Jesus and I believed in the Holy Spirit. But so I have no need to get rebaptized. But you bring out an excellent point, Rick, and the point I'm trying to bring out with you is that words mean things. And a lot of times people get lost in the words and they think, well, he baptized me. No, he didn't. No, you offered yourself to God. Do you understand how they play with these words?
Oh yeah, no. In fact, you're right. You're right on, Gilbert. You're right. You're right on, and that's the answer. It doesn't. In fact, I looked it up today, as a matter of fact. I'm saying, well, wait a minute. In the Christian doctrine, well, what if a sinner baptized you? How would a real Christian view it? And it doesn't. You're really being baptized into Jesus' way of living. Okay, Jesus' way of doing business. So it's really not. Doesn't have anything to do with the baptizer. It's what your feelings are toward Jesus. That's the answer. That's what you're being baptized for. Yeah.
Thank you, Gilbert. Goodbye. Thank you, Gilbert. That was a beautiful paragraph. He really said it well.
No, he did. He did. He's right on. He's right on with that. Yes. Good. Thank you, Gilbert.
The one point I wanted to make was that Gilbert agrees, I know, with me on this, but that has been missed in the whole thing. Baptism is a symbol of a dedication that you, the person getting dunked, has already made to God. It's a symbol of your dedication. But it also includes the Christ, the Redeemer, forgiving you. Witnesses do not have a doctrine anymore of this forgiveness that I learned from my Bible student parents. And it's very important listening to what Dick Borgie was saying. He's been forgiven of any of his past war deeds and so forth because he's in the Christ. And we won't do religion now. I'll be there tomorrow and in my seat.
Well, there you go. No, that's right. You just answered that correctly, and Gilbert did as well. Yeah, it doesn't matter who's going to baptize you. It's you're doing this on your own, and but sad to say, I still stand on the ground that being baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I wish I could really tell you it was one of the best days of my life. It wasn't. But let's move. I know it's the only thing they can stand on. Well, let's get into another subject. I got thinking of this. I think of it a lot. In fact, we got a lot of people, got a lot of lines open here. Did 270 want to say something? Did the caller 270? I'm going to mute everybody here. 270. Do you want to say something? Okay, you muted. Okay. All right. We got a lot of people coming in here tonight.
Yes, I'm sorry, Rick.
Oh, that's all right. Who's this?
This is Penny
Kimmy?
from Kentucky. Penny, Penny.
Oh, Penny. Yes. Yes, Penny.
Yes, from Kentucky.
Yes.
I was calling because I've been listening to you all discussing the baptism. And I'm really thinking about this, and just quick, I'll go quick, because I truly felt the day that I was baptized, that it was more like what was just said by Pixie about, and who was it, Jesse or Gilbert, I don't know which one it was, talking about that it doesn't matter who baptizes you. Because the first time I got baptized is my most special connection, I guess you could say, to Jesus Christ was when I was about 14, 15 years old. And I happened to be in foster care. And I was baptized in a Baptist church. But I had already been taught about Jehovah prior to going into foster care. So when I got married at the age of 17 out of there, I went back to being Jehovah's Witness eventually. Okay, so I got baptized, I want to say in 94 or 95, I can't remember, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I guess technically y'all can call me a PMO, though I haven't been in a hot minute and I don't believe this anymore. But anyway, that baptism was done on a day that my foster father was very ill, and I had been studying third shift to take care of him. And I went over to get baptized about 30, 45 minutes from where we live. We had to go where they were having I want to say one of the circuits. That's what, like a 1-2 day thing, not the big one. But anyways, I went just to get baptized. I don't remember hardly any of it, but I do remember what they said before they done. And it was what you guys had said they say now. The Father, the Son, and giving your allegiance to the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. that's one of those questions. And I always thought, why? Why did they ask me that? And it's weird because I wasn't baptized at that point in time with Holy Spirit in mind at all. So when I got baptized at 14, 15, and I felt Jesus Christ's Spirit, to me, that's when I was baptized. And that was me giving myself to Jesus. And my quest has never stopped. I fell in every day, but it's never stopped. And I'm very ill, and every day I thank you for waking me up. And I know that I have to keep my eyes on Jesus Christ. That's the path, and that's that. But thank you, and you guys have a wonderful evening.
Well, Peony, amen to that.
And I hope the Holy Spirit can improve your health.
Well, we all hope for that too, don't we? Huh? We hope Peony can get better health. Yes, in fact, it's terrible to have to go through life with being sick. But amen to her wanting to connect and want to be a believer after leaving the Watchtower. So that's good. So I want to bring up one more story here tonight, and it has to do with. I got thinking about this a lot, and I had a lot of friends in the organization too. And there's one thing I always thought of. Is there a correlation? Is there a correlation between Jehovah's Witnesses and schizophrenia? Now, we can, go ring around the rosy with this. We can have all kinds of opinions on it and thoughts on it. I'm sure every person we discuss this with would have different opinions of it. But there was actually, we had Dr. Jerry Bergman. He was a psychologist that worked for the Watchtower. And he actually worked there at Bethel for a while. And he's been on our program 4 times in the past and discussed these very issues. So he did write the book. It's called Jehovah's Witnesses and the Problem of Mental Illness. It's out of publication now, but it's a wonderful book. But anyways, you can also look online. Cambridge University also had findings on mental health of Jehovah's Witnesses. So it wasn't only just Dr. Bergman, but it's also others have done studies on the mental health issues of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I find this very interesting what the Cambridge people had to say about Jehovah's Witnesses. They said that Jehovah's Witnesses are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed as suffering from schizophrenia and nearly 4 times more likely from paranoid schizophrenia than the rest of the population at risk. So there's some sizable numbers there. So to say that a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are schizophrenic, it wouldn't be really stretching it here because a lot of them are. And some of them suffer from paranoid schizophrenia. We'll get into that a little bit here as well. But, as far as we know, as far as I can tell you here tonight, there's no single worse mental illness. All right. There really isn't. Each mental illness has its own unique challenges. But schizophrenia, let me tell you, schizophrenia is widely considered one of the most severe. I gotta mute some people here. Just don't come in until we. All right, because you come in and okay. Let's mute some people here right now. All right. Schizophrenia is one of the most widely considered to be the most severe and disabling. It has a profound effect on people. It's a terrible thing, and our heart goes out to anybody that has it. But what it can do to you, and what it can do to many witnesses, is it can create monumental problems in their life. There's complex symptoms that go along, and I found a lot of these symptoms in the Jehovah's Witness religion. I found a lot of even my friends that I think suffered, I feel was suffering from some type of a mental issue. No, I don't want to go through life saying, well, that person's mental. But maybe all of us think certain ones at times. But think about it, when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses and an active witness, how many people really were delusional? Really, how many people were delusional? They had far out thoughts. They had disorganized thoughts. Many Jehovah's Witnesses have disorganized thoughts. I mean, there's people too in the world, and so to speak, that have disorganized thoughts too. But I mean, I saw more people in the Jehovah's Witness religion that had immense burdens that were impacting their daily lives, their relationships, their self care. And really, they were all over the map. It seemed to be running without a rudder. I mean, there's other psychological problems too. We've discussed many times here on the six screens, but personally, people who have been suffering from these mental illnesses have really had to put up with a lot, being even a Watchtower or Jehovah's Witness person, because of the pressures that would be put on them aside from the problem that they were already experiencing. Just to give you an idea, some of the information that came in here to the six screens with people who have suffered, and they're willing to suggest this, that they suffered from schizophrenia and all kinds of anxiety because of being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And one of the things too that I see repeating itself over and over, many Jehovah's Witnesses have this idea of delusionalism. If a person's schizophrenic, they have delusions. In other words, they're thinking something is real, but it's not. And so many Jehovah's Witnesses that I have known through my years, and even people writing me here and giving me information, the six screens, so many witnesses were afraid of everything. They were very paranoid that Satan and the demons would get a hold of them. And that was one of the biggest fears people had, that, if they left Jehovah, the demons would attack them. And I mean, really, how can you go through life and be normal thinking that? That's somewhat delusional, right? And then also, if you didn't obey Jehovah to a T, you're going to die at Armageddon. Now, that was even brought up here just tonight, right? People getting baptized because they would die at Armageddon. How can you really go through life like that? And there's so many things like that Jehovah's Witnesses suffer from. And when we had Dr. Jerry Bergman, the psychiatrist, who is out now, he's an older man now, but he was involved with the Watchtower, and he wrote the book, as I said earlier, The Problems of Mental Illness and the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I asked him, I can remember when he was on the six screens one night, Dr. Bergman, why is it, what is the biggest problem? What is the biggest cause of mental illness among Jehovah's Witnesses? And I was really anxious to hear what he would say. Excuse me. And his answer was, well, people putting their life on hold. I say, well, that can cause mental problems? A person putting their life on hold? Of course it can. We all want to live fulfilling lives, don't we? We don't want to be walking through life all the time putting our life on hold. And that's what you had to do as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh no, don't get that job, Brother Farron. No, Armageddon's coming. Let that one go. You'll get a better job in the new system. Don't have children. I mean, even many witnesses were told that. Many witnesses were told a lot of things. And they kind of put, don't get married. No, don't get married. We're so close to the end. So a lot of people, including Ray Franz, governing body member, one of the things he mentioned in the Crisis of Conscience book that he wrote was the fact that him and his wife, Cynthia, they could have had children, but they didn't because of the doctrines and teachings of the Watchtower. So that really can be upsetting. So everyone put their life on hold being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that can cause all kinds of mental strain. But other things too, like the demons and other things like, oh, if I don't do everything right, Jehovah's going to hate me. He's going to kill me at Armageddon. You can't go through life as a normal person like that. So, I'd be hard pressed. I think all of us would be hard pressed listening to this program tonight if, seriously, I think most Jehovah's Witnesses are suffering some type of a mental illness, whether it's depression, anxiety, bipolar, narcissistic personality, something. Something seems to be.
There's a whole lot of paranoid. There's a
whole lot of paranoid.
Ye-
They think that everybody's out to get them, and they're packing a suitcase about it. And in the Bergman book, which I read when I was 17, he had a whole ward full of those people.
Yeah, and the thing is, Pixie, and even our audience listening in, I don't want to, call all Jehovah's Witnesses mentally ill. I'm not going to say that. I wouldn't say it because it's not true, but a good many of them are. I'll tell you that. I mean, but I know mental illness runs common in the general population as well. But I think one of the problems in the Jehovah's Witness world, in a fear-based controlling organization, uh, people will have an opportunity, if you want to call it that, not an opportunity, but it would make more people develop mental illness problems, wouldn't it? If you're in a fear-based.
I get my bills paid on time. I go to work on time. I'm a sober living person. Life is hard enough, and they have this weight on them. Lift that burden off yourself and only have the troubles of the day.
Yeah.
Because you were given a lot of crazy making behavior. If you went to a counselor, they call it crazy making behavior. It's a weight that's not yours to carry. This is why that book Let Them has been such a bestseller. What's the difference between the responsibility of your neighbor and the responsibility you have to you? And as witnesses, we are taught to be preachaholics. We got our own problem and we want to fix the guy over there. Let him fix his own thing. And you have enough worries of the day, and don't think that everybody's out to get you, because we were taught all that.
Well, yes, we were, Pixie. And, I was so fascinated by Dr. Bergman and the book he wrote, The Problem of Mental Illness and the Jehovah's Witnesses, and also by this Oxford medical study that confirms that Jehovah's Witnesses have more mental illness issues and problems than the average person. Now,
Oh, I got out of there. I was in the wrong room. The Kingdom Hall is the wrong room. You need to be free. You need to be free to have your own life without all that baggage.
yes, and I don't mean to sit here and insinuate that everyone in the Jehovah's Witness organization has it. I'm not saying that, but I'm really. Let me put it this way to you: I'm unable to really come up with more than a handful of people that I knew in the Jehovah's Witness religion that didn't exhibit some form of mental illness. Now, you might say, geez, Rick, you must have found a lot of people that were mental, but I'm serious. Now that I look back, I didn't see it when I was in there. But now that I look back, I really, there were people that were pretty sane. But boy, I'll tell you, when I look back on the trail, I say, what were these people thinking? Of some form of mental illness. So they've been.
Good mind. They wore us out with poor nutrition, lack of sleep, overwork, lack of basic self-care when we should have been studying for our schoolwork or resting up to go to our work on our weekends. It was a work cult. And as Maverick noted to me about a month ago, they had child labor in this work cult too.
Yes. Well, just to emphasize what you're saying, Pixie, Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm just trying to put some thoughts together. Jehovah's Witnesses, let's go with they're in a survival mode. Survival mode. They're under constant control and threat. I mean, can you live a normal life under constant control and threat?
It's a burden we no longer have to carry.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, really can, and if you weren't mental, and I'm not making in any way, I'm not making, it would get to you. It really, I mean, like anything. I mean, if you were saying going into a company and the company was just doing outrageous things and had you under control and threat all the time, you're going to lose this job. You're going to lose this job. I mean, after a while, you become, overly excited, nervous, anxious. So you can really see why. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
That's not a theory. I read some material the other day that can all hurt the immune system.
Yes, absolutely, Pixie. Maverick from London. What do you have to say, Maverick?
Hi, Rick. I really want to thank you for bringing this, highlighting this point, because I think it's very, very underrated how powerfully
as everybody's mentioned and shared their stories, and you've been bringing it out, how hard it is to for anybody who doesn't understand the witness culture of the psychological, the psyop that we were under, because we quite often, Rick, talk about the opportunities that we lacked. Like, for example, many people wanted to start families, many people wanted to go to university and so on. They wanted to do things, but even when those things, some of those things, we pushed through and actually got some qualifications or got a trade or did something, the overshadowing thing that was basically hitting us. Like, I remember I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and the Cold War was very evident to us, and I'm sure even more pronounced in America, where, you know, the Russia was pointing missiles at USA and vice versa. So when I was growing up through school, I'm thinking, boy, they could just press the button any time. What's the point in doing anything? So that was just general news, and people were in fear of the Cold War and nuclear holocaust. Now, as you know, Rick, and everybody listening in, Jehovah's Witnesses Armageddon is like the Cold War amplified 1,000 times. So anybody who understands what that was like, being a witness and fearing Armageddon and imminent destruction, and what's the point in doing anything? That's like the Cold War amplified 1,000 times, in my mind anyway. So how are we supposed to function normally and just relax? It's impossible. You see, we always had that in the back of our minds. So I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because even sometimes witnesses who've left have just get over it, and why are you going on about that? No. It leaves a huge, powerful stamp on our lives, and we have to do a lot of work to decompress it, unclutter that and emotionally free ourselves. So it takes a lot of work, and we're all doing this right now as we're speaking to each other and sharing our experiences. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Maverick. And you got me thinking. You know, we would always attribute the Watchtower people, Jehovah's Witnesses, acting strange, and we would say it's mind control. It has to do with the teaching, the threats, all of that comes into play. But, you know, a lot of it has to do with mental illness too. It can drive you nuts, as you were saying. Did someone want to speak up? Dick, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Rick.
Yep.
Yeah, just another thought, if I could.
Yeah.
Cognizant dissonance, okay, can lead to schizophrenia. A lot of people don't really understand what schizophrenia is. It's not dual personalities or anything like that. A lot of people get that confused. It's a situation where you look at your hand and then blink your eye, and you look at it again, and it looks like a bear's paw. That's that's schizophrenia. You just can't see things as they really are, and I think it starts with cognizant dissonance. You know, you're told that the governing body is infallible because it gets all of its information from Jehovah directly, and then 20 years, 30 years later, they tell you they're not inspired, and they can make mistakes. It has to be two different things that are completely contrasting. So there is a lot of mental illness in the Watchtower, and especially, I think, with some of the elders, they're narcissistic as all heck. You know, like, hey, I'm an elder, and you better be listening to me because your very life depends on it. And then you see these guys in the workplace like I did, and they're not special, and they're not spiritual either. They're spiritual at the Kingdom Hall, but not on the workplace or everyday life. Thank you, Rick.
Well, always good to hear from you, Dick, and thank you very much for that thought of yours. It's good. Thank you. Well, anyways, folks, we're coming to the end of our program, but I did want to let everyone know that we do have a Sunday program tomorrow. Now, beginning at 1 o'clock. Now, on Sunday, we get into theology. I mean, that is something that we learned in the Watchtower, and we're going to show you the false teachings tomorrow on Sunday of the Watchtower. So by all means, if you can do it, come and join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on the Six Queens Telenetwork. We have a number of programs. We have one program coming up at 1 o'clock. It's called Knowing God After Leaving the Watchtower. And then at 2 o'clock, we have Anne Marie comes in once again with her program called Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their story of being in the Watchtower. So if you have a story and you'd like to tell it tomorrow, by all means, call up Anne Marie at 2 o'clock tomorrow, same telephone number you used to come in here tonight. And then at 3 o'clock, we do JW World News Sunday edition. 4 o'clock, we do the Christian Court. You say, well, what is that all about? Well, you know, in the real world of Christianity, there's a lot of peculiar questions that are asked, and sometimes those questions have different answers, unlike the Watchtower. So join us tomorrow for Christian Court. And then if you have Bible questions, Jay Hess, a Bible scholar, he'll be on with us tomorrow at 5 o'clock answering your Bible questions. Now, what we do here after the program, we leave our telephone lines open. They're not being recorded. The lines are open. You can get on, talk to your favorite friends on the 6 screens. There'll be a bunch of them in there tonight. And you can talk till the cows come home. Just remember, when you're talking, to unmute yourself, you hit *6. To mute yourself again, hit *6 again. And mute yourself so there's not a lot of gibbly-gobbly noise and static in there. So if you want to stay on, it's not recorded. It's not live or anything. It's not on YouTube, Facebook. So go ahead and give that a shot. And we certainly appreciate you all coming into the 6 screens tonight. And all those people that are going to be affected by the storm, hunker down, play it safe. And we really want to say that may God be with you. You know, the world that we live in right now has so many things we have to be concerned about. Weather could be one of them. And we hope all goes well in your area. So we ask you all, have a good night. And right at the end of this program, too, I'm going to play that script, that clip that we have on our video of the assemblies and how the deficit always shows up. We'll play that right at the very end. But I want to tell you all to keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up, or out. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Here's the video. We're going to put it on YouTube later on today.
Brothers and sisters, we're grateful for how Jehovah has blessed this assembly. To help us keep track of those blessings, Brother Martin will handle the financial accounting for our weekend together. Brother Martin.
Thank you, brother. Good afternoon.
Brothers and sisters, we would like to thank everyone in attendance for your loving support of Jehovah's arrangement for us to meet together. We also deeply appreciate those who have reached out regarding the privilege of assisting with the cleaning department. Regarding our financial report, we are currently running a deficit for this assembly. As the cost of expenses has risen, our current outlays exceed the donations we have received thus far. We thank you in advance for your kind consideration, and we know that Jehovah will bless your generous support.
Criticism of accounting practices at Jehovah's Witness conventions often centers upon manipulative financial reporting designed to solicit higher donations. While the Watchtower Society officially states that all giving is voluntary, specific deficit reporting tactics at large events have drawn scrutiny. These deceptive practices further prove that the Watchtower Society is nothing more than a multi-billion-dollar business empire, cleverly masquerading as a financially modest Christian religion.
Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock right here on the 6 Screens Tele Network. Thank you for being with us tonight.
After party.